right. This is a broadcast of the Portland Insight Meditation Community. And I'm coming to you from a little house in my backyard in western Portland. Almost Beaverton, within a block. And here's a little text piece from Alan Watts that I've been fond of for decades. This feeling of being lonely and very temporary visitors in the universe is in flat contradiction to everything known about humans and all other living organisms in the sciences. We do not come into this world. We come out of it as leaves come out of a tree. As the ocean waves, the universe peoples. Every individual is an expression of the whole realm of nature, a unique action of the entire universe. This feeling of being lonely and very temporary visitors in the universe is in flat contradiction to everything known about humans and all living organisms in the sciences. We do not come into this world, we come out of it, as leaves come from a tree. As the ocean waves, the universe peoples. Every individual is an expression of the whole realm of nature, a unique action of the total universe. I was in the Hollyhock van a long time ago. 25 years ago, maybe. 20, who knows? One of those trips. And it was Bill, the naturalist, who's still there. Lovely fellow. We were driving, it was just the two of us in the van. He was taking me to the ferry. And he said something that really stuck. It was like, oh, of course. You know, we talk about carbon sequestration. That's almost right. Where does the carbon come from that builds all those leaves and branches and trees? It all comes out of the air. Now that is the strangest thing, isn't it? The trees are built from the air. Still blows my mind. So let's sit together with our borrowed water and borrowed carbon and borrowed calcium and magnesium and everything that we've borrowed from the earth for a little while. Let's sit here and see how that co-arises with consciousness. So we do as humans have done now for thousands of years. And right now around the planet, there are thousands of people sitting down to meditate with us. And there's people with the same aspiration in mosques and temples and churches and forest churches. We're all wanting to remember home. It's so simple what we do here. We can make it complicated. We can have lots of theories about it, and we can spend lots of time in thinking. But we'll never find our way home thinking. Thinking always takes us into fantasies and ideas. And to discover home, where we've always been, only requires that we stop here and now. So noticing the upright posture, where is the pressure against the floor or the chair or the cushion? And as we turn our heart-mind toward being present, let's for a moment reflect on gratitude. The gratitude practice is an antidote for the natural fear of human beings, or the natural looking for the problems, the lacks, which have to do with survival. Gratitude is a higher order function. Most likely you're sitting in warmth. Quite probably you've had your warm drink of choice this morning. You found there was running water for brushing your teeth. You were able to swing your legs off the side of the bed and make contact with the floor. And then stand up. Balance was still there. You probably flicked a switch and there was suddenly electricity, light. And the mystery of mysteries occurred and is right now. There's consciousness. And that consciousness is somehow malleable. We can direct it to some degree. And so we direct it to here, to the actual bare attention sensations of breathing in and breathing out. And this breathing in and breathing out is something that the body's been doing since the first moment of your life. When your mother could no longer breathe for you, you gasped. And we can use this in-breathing and out-breathing as our home base. Of course, there may well be thoughts. Let us come home to now in the familiar way we've practiced so many times. We might remind ourselves of the background. Not only are we cultivating mindfulness and concentration and curiosity, energy and persistence and tranquility and all those good things. We also aspire to love and accept ourselves exactly as we are. Exactly as we are right now. Which means there's no violence to our practice. There's no demand to our practice. There's no self-improvement required. There's just this presence, this softening into the universe that we are. It's not that someday we'll have some great experience that will then qualify us for something. It's right now. This is the moment of our life. This is the in-breathing. This is the out-breathing. And as we open, since we're human beings, since we're mammals, we're living creatures, we will discover discomfort, the aches and pains of a human body, maybe the pain of illness. We may well discover aches and pains of the emotional kind. We could be anxious or frightened or grieving, could be angry. And so I aspire, or my intention, or whatever your words would be, whenever I discover myself to be hurting, it is my firmest intention to turn toward it, to finally put down the avoidance, and to hold myself in sweet compassion. And so there's love in which there's room for everything. And compassion in which there's room even for pain, especially for suffering. And so we get to truly rest here now, in our fullness, in our beauty. It is with the most delicate of intention that we bring awareness to the present moment. Depending upon our conditioning, some of us are pretty harsh about it. We set out with a project to silence the mind, to stop the wandering mind. And over time, as we follow the Eightfold Path, in fact, the mind does get quieter, but not through silencing. It's all accomplished through love. Love and cleaning up our moral and ethical lives, our behaviors. Growing out of our addictions, compulsions. And so we come home to now, to this very moment right now. There might be desire stirring up the mind. There might be aversion or disliking stirring up the mind. There could be restlessness and agitation. There could be sleepy dullness or doubt. There could be seemingly endless storytelling, justifications, rationales, conversations. None of them matter. And each breath sings the song of impermanence. There is a breathing in, and it starts out of nowhere. The body breathes in as far as it does, and then it changes direction, and then it breathes out. And then it's gone. resting back into now. With nowhere to get to. Isn't it a relief to just stop? Perhaps I'm broken or just old, but a lot of the intensity that was once required to make life even interesting is kind of tedious. Not all of it, but imagine liking sitting somewhere and really getting into it. I have been observing, I talked about this yesterday in the Dharma talk, I believe. I have been observing in this consciousness. You know, there's dukkha, and then there's the cause of dukkha, and the Buddha broke that down into three strategies in a way, or three phenomena. One is wanting pleasure, wanting life, wanting. And the other is wanting life to stop, wanting stimulation to stop. Which, in its extreme, is the suicidal impulse. In its unbalanced extreme. And then there's the middle one, or the third one, which it's becoming. It's wanting to become something. And I've always understood it. I've never understood it as I'm doing now, which is that in any moment when the moment itself is not sufficient, when there's this leaning into, when I can just get this finished, I'll finish this and then I'll be done with that. And how many millions of times has that happened in my life? And there's always the next thing. And actually, I told this story yesterday. I had an errand to run at Target. An errand to run. Isn't that interesting? Let's run our errands. I'll just do it really quick. And I was walking in Target, heading for the plastic containers area. And it occurred to me, what's this tension? What's this? Because I had plenty of time for the errands I was doing, and that was what I was doing. And so I decided to do walking meditation, and I didn't slow down enough to become arrested or accosted. But I just walked, and I was aware of walking. What a relief to just do the thing I was doing. And the same is true in meditation and sitting here. Is it enough to just sit? Can be. What a relief. So I have one invitation, which is in the chat, which is to my class that begins on Wednesday night this week. It's an 8-class series on the Buddha's teachings. Surprise! But it's using the book What the Buddha Taught. And it's an exquisite book, really beautifully written. And so if that interests you, please come and join in. If you couldn't make it for 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever that were for you, you can also time shift it, because I will be recording it. And there will be a password protected link that you can watch it later. So, Jim, is there something else we should announce?
I think the first Sunday of the month is coming up.
Candles
Group, and there won't be a first Saturday retreat this month, but there is one scheduled for December. So then I've got a Qigong retreat on the 20th. So it's a busy month for families that are celebrating Thanksgiving, people traveling. My grandkids are all over the place. But in my world, it's a pretty quiet month.
Anna asked in the chat if it's recommended to read the book before the class. I'd say, yes, most certainly. However, if you haven't yet, the first class is going to be really, in a way, an overview and introduction and just chapter 1. And each week, actually, will be another chapter. So you could read them by the week. Or it's a book that's really worthy of reading. I read it 35 years ago, I think, originally. And it's a fine book. Interesting, going back to it now, I'm remembering some things or learning. Well, it's describing the Dharma, the way things are, and I understand life better now. I've had some more experience, and so the pointers are much clearer. It's like, oh, that's what he's saying. Maybe this thing on becoming is one of them. That I'm seeing it more clearly because I'm seeing more clearly. I have an achy left shoulder. I have my booster last night, and my only symptom is just stiff. Very fortunate to have such a small reaction. I every now and then I think, you guys go, you build antibodies, go, go, go. I don't know whether that happens in the arm or somewhere else, but I like to think that's the factory of antibodies in my arm. Antibodies. You suppose there really are antibodies? That's a funny word, isn't it? There's something. I try to refrain from calling attention to people, but I'm going to do it just at this moment. Denise, would you please model for us? Denise is in her Where's Waldo Now outfit. Where's Waldo Now with Denise?
And my son, for Halloween, he was the Black Knight from Monty Python.
Uh-huh.
So we had great fun hacking his arm off over and over again.
Oh dear, Monty Python. We should have a Monty Python evening at the center sometime. Kat says yes. I think the meaning of life would be the one. Always look on the bright side of life. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum.
Well, you're dead now, so shut up.
Oh, dear. That got me. That was great. Who did that?
It was me, Robert.
How perfect. Thank you.
And I have that as a video clip. I
do?
share that with people. You bloody Americans, you always talk and you talk and you talk. Well, you're dead now, so shut up.
I have the clip of, hello, we've come for your liver, but I'm still using it. I show that on retreats sometimes. That was so spontaneous, quick. Bye, Dave. From Cody, antibodies, which are also called immunoglobulins, all of the same basic Y shape, but there are 5 variations on this theme called IgG, IgM, IgA, IgD. said Jason's sister, professor of microbiology. They're real. How do you like that? I've now seen it on the internet. They must be real. I know a long time ago, before a trip to Asia, when I left, a long time ago, I got a 5 cc shot in my butt of immunoglobulins. It was not a pleasant thing. So, my friends, have you anything you'd like to share? Wonder how Erin is today. I spoke with her after our meeting yesterday, and she had come down with COVID. Just goes to show there's some vulnerability still. She had her third shot. She also worked in the hospital with people with COVID, so she had a lot of exposure.
G'day, Robert. G'day, Sangha.
G'day.
We had the Aussie accent. We had the British accent. I don't know if we can have any other accents. And I'm being kind of quiet because Nick is sleeping downstairs, but we have the open plan. So can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, good. Well, I loved thinking about all the carbon coming into our bodies and creating our bodies and the bodies of everything else on the earth. But then you know where that carbon comes from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, from the stars, from fusion. So it's quite amazing that this universe is creating all the time, and we're the result.
Beautiful.
So that's all. Just really nice to have you back here again.
I'm glad to be back.
Yeah.
Every time I see you, I take such delight in the fact that you can see.
Me too. Thank you so much. It's still every day is so wonderful when I open my eyes and it's clear.
Wow.
Yeah. Very lucky am I.
Whew. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Robert. It's Joy.
Hello, Joy.
Yeah, I like the pictures of the ocean you sent last week. That was nice. So I'm just curious. I noticed there's so many messages always around us in the world about catastrophes, and yet last week I had this strange feeling of kind of a magical benevolence in my own life against all, of the pessimism and so on. But is that a kind of a delusion that we're in some kind of a benevolent a place where we can get a support that sometimes seems like magic coming to us, or like what is the actual reality that we should be thinking, that that we are in a disastrous world, but we have to be grateful for just this day, or is there a kind of basic goodness we can rely on? Anyway, do you have any thoughts on?
I recommend that you take the upcoming course on what the Buddha taught.
Yes, yes.
That in that there's some. Well, hang on just a second here. The Buddha's teachings are neither optimistic nor pessimistic.
Mm.
They point at reality. And from the perspective of the individual human being, the reality is always disastrous. Right? Because we always die. And we can live our lives in lots of fear or loathing, or and we can live it with an idea that someone, a deity sort of thing, is looking out for us, is on our side. That was I remember in second grade in Catholic school, I played hockey, ice hockey, from first, second, and third grade, little tiny kids on skates. And we would always kneel before we went out to play, and we would pray to win. Which is the craziest thing to be teaching children, I think. But, God would be on our side. The problem with God being on our side is that when things go bad, then it means there has to be something wrong with us. Either that or God is mad at us or something. All that theistic stuff gets very complicated. And so what the Buddhist teachings are things are as they are. And there's no telling when catastrophic things will happen. As I mentioned yesterday, I'm reading this book, Radical Acts of Love by Jamie Brown, and I cannot recommend it too highly. It's a marvel. It's 20 conversations of inspiration and hope at the end of life. Beautifully written. And that, and then I also listened to, someone turned me on to it. It's Joan Didion's A Year of Magical Thinking, and there's a version of it which, what's her name? The incredible British actress. Redgrave, Vanessa Redgrave. Oh. Vanessa Redgrave took it to the stage, and she does an hour and 20-minute rendition of Joan Didion's A Year of Magical Thinking, which begins with the death of her husband at the dining room table. Mm-hmm. And it's an amazing work of art, and it's describing how her mind denies the death of her husband and then her daughter. Mm-hmm. So are we protected somehow? I don't think so. The protection from the Dharma perspective is the protection of waking up, which is then that whatever comes. I asked Achan Sumedo one time, the one time I ever got to do a 10-day retreat with him, I was washing the kitchen floor at Cloud Mountain late at night, and he came in to get his morning coffee in his thermos. And I asked him, what's the outcome of having been a monk for all these decades? And he's a very sweet man, very kind. And he paused, and then he said, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to handle anything that happens in my life. So it's not so much that life isn't going to throw us a curveball, but that we develop the capacity to really accept whatever comes.
Thanks. That's helpful. So the magic is kind of a gift of the moment too, that I could be grateful for, that there was magic now and then. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
What felt like magic anyway. Mm-hmm. Just unexpected, completely unexpected, good thing like wondrous things happening every day.
Every breath.
Yeah, yeah.
And look at
Can
this. Here we sit. Can I? You were going to ask something, I think.
Oh, I just wondered if it was a feature of being in a kind of a white privileged life to be able to feel that way.
I don't think so.
Oh, that, yeah. Because there is a lot of suffering, and I hope other people have the same.
There is suffering in every life.
Mm.
And the Buddha wasn't white.
Oh, yeah.
Nor are all the Asian Buddhists. Nor it's not about skin color. It's about consciousness. Now, there's privilege. The ability to have to participate in this requires electricity and a computer and a place and stability. I mean, there's all kinds of things like that. But the Dharma is unrelated to skin color. One of the questions before us at PIMC is, how do we go about making PIMC as welcoming and inclusive and accessible as we possibly can?
Mm-hmm.
Across economic, racial, cultural, gender preference. How do we not have barriers that we could avoid that keep people from participating? That's part of our task, which we're facing into very directly right now.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So even taking action can mitigate like the feeling of catastrophe that we're in sometimes.
We can feel empowered, and
right.
I could tell you a little story about. Do you know who Joanna Macy is?
Yeah.
Joanna came to Portland 3 years ago, last summer. And Jennifer and I were going to be camping. We were going to be 5 hours away. And I had decided, and she was meeting with people at PIMC. And I had decided, it felt like a sacrifice, but I was not going to come and see her. And then it turned out there was too much smoke where we were planning to go, and so we were camping just 2 hours away. And Jennifer, the night before, I had given up on it. And the night before, 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night, Jennifer said, "You have to go." Which brings tears to my eyes, actually. And so I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock, and I drove home and got a shower, and I went over and I was there for the day with Joanna. And at noon, at lunchtime, everyone left to go into the living room to eat. And Joanna was sitting there, and I came up and sat down beside her on the floor. And I remember one hand was in her hands and one hand was on her foot. And I started to cry. And I said, "Joanna, sometimes I'm losing hope. It looks like we're past the fail-safe point. Sometimes I think we're not, that we humans are cooked." And she patted my hand and she said, "The Buddha was never very big about hope." Buddha doesn't talk about hope. But then she said, "And what if it's true? What if it's true? We're past the fail-safe point. What if it is the end of human civilization?" And she patted my hand and said, "Aren't you in a perfect position to teach people how to be loving and compassionate as it all happens?" And then she went on a little bit and said, in the individual life, it's always true. The catastrophe is coming, right? The end the end is near. And then she pointed over in the corner where there's a Jizo statue, which is a little statue like this. It's a Japanese archetype. And she said in Japan, not in Japan, in Tibetan Buddhism, he is, and she really understands Tibetan Buddhism, is well educated in that. And so she said, he is so-and-so, and he takes birth in the deepest of the hells. And he knows, and she patted my hand against it, said, he knows, just as you do, you can't save anybody. But he takes birth there so that he can be loving and compassionate amidst all the suffering. And I found their response incredibly comforting.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't know. We don't know if we are certainly past the fail-safe point in our lives. And when we took birth, we went past the fail-safe point. And who knows what's going to happen with the planet? But what in either case, what is there to do except being loving and kind and compassionate and practice in such a way that we become joyful in learning deeply that there's no one who's born and no one who dies. I mean, this is the promise of the Dharma. The Buddha said the taste of this practice in the beginning is the taste of freedom. The taste in the middle is the taste of freedom, and the taste at the end is the taste of freedom. And it doesn't take much practice before we start feeling more freedom, before we start suffering less.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very beautiful. So I know people here who talk to trees, and I myself had a message from a tree, which was that just as they sort of naturally grow and produce leaves, so it's the same as our lives, how, as you were saying at the beginning, we come into being as part of the chemical processes of the world, and we just go through our lives the way a tree would. Anyway, I encourage people to communicate with trees if they can. Oh, thank you, Robert. That was a very beautiful thought.
Thanks to Joanna. I have at least 80, maybe 90-year-old Douglas fir tree that I pass. My dog is asleep on. Oh no, Buddha's in here right now. But I have a wonderful relationship with this tree right out here. I love to sit and look up into it. There was a time when I would have had to climb it, but I don't have to anymore. Well, I'm going to need to go soon. I have a car with a flat tire. I need to get to Les Schwab. So anybody sitting with something you'd like to share before we go? Happy to be with you today. Let's go out.
Robert.
Oh.
Hi, Sangha. Sorry.
Hello, Sky. It's okay.
It's Sky. I've been gone for a little while. I was on a month-long retreat.
Wow.
And it didn't even notice. It was so quiet in my corner. I wanted to tell you, Robert, that while I was gone, I stayed for 2 weeks at a sanctuary on the Big Island, and with people that you know, and we were talking about Sangha, and they said that the Levys, Michelle and Joel,
Uh-huh.
that they're like, oh, Robert, he's a Dharma brother of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of a sweet connection to be so far away from home, to have all these, dots lining up.
Mm.
So
I
they
saw
say hello.
I saw them the other day at a Buddhist teachers conference. Yeah.
Yep.
I did notice your absence. I thought you were just hiding out, but you were actually hiding out, hiding out.
I was. Yeah. I definitely needed to get some space and in my mind.
And
There's
so
nothing like going away for extended period of time to give you some clarity.
So what is the wisdom you would share with us?
I learned a lot of things and had a lot of interesting epiphanies. I can share one thing because I know you have a flat tire.
Oh yeah, please do share. I have time for if there's something to share.
You have time?
Yeah.
I had this one day where I woke up. This was this trip was around my 60th birthday. And so seemed like a good time to really give myself space. And I woke up one day and I was looking at my arm and noticing the wrinkles and the discolorations. And then I said to myself, arm, you've been with me a long time. Thank you for everything that you've done for me. And I believe that, we exhibit, acts of self-love and self-kindness as a way to connect ourselves with the whole, and as a way to, by loving ourselves, the feeling of love for myself, when I reached out and just kind of gently kissed my wrist, as you've been with kind of love I would feel when I kissed my dog, or when I kissed my daughter when she was small, or, that love, reached out and gave myself a series of like little kisses, like you're just so cute kind of thing, that feeling, see my body as almost like this separate entity, this separate being that I was inhabiting, and that.
Wow.
This is just, it really is not us.
Amen. Sing our way out of here. Bam, ba, ba, du, sadu, sadu. Bye, friend.
Bye, David.
Be well, be well, be well.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.